لا إله إلا الله.
Thank you. I really want to thank the organizers for putting this together, and I really think that it should be a tradition in this country. It should be a tradition in every single European country and in the States to have gatherings like this one. We have to be very, very much organized and bring the people together to talk about what is happening and to make it clear that we are not going to give up. It's the reality of our struggle, it's the reality of our citizenship in these countries, and we have to come together. So really, and we have to use all the means, have been supporting on the social media, on Twitter, on Facebook. This is where we have the alternative media doing what we can do now. We have to use all these because this is part of our struggle as well, and by using all the means. Let me say something about the discussion, because we are trying to think about what we can do where we are in Europe or in the UK, and in which way we have to deal with the issue. What I will try to do is start by saying what we should avoid doing. What we should avoid doing or saying, the narrative in which way we have to deal with it. And then the second part of my talk will be what we can do as people living in the West, living here in the UK. I would say that there are many things that I think we have to avoid doing. And the first one is, we had a discussion just before about the Balfour Declaration. And I think that we have to avoiding history. It's very important in the narrative, in the way we talk about Palestine, about the way we talk about the rights of the Palestinians, and we talk about what is happening in the Middle East, to have a historical perspective, a historical understanding. Very often the Palestinians, when they come, or not the Palestinians, but the supporters of the Palestinians are coming, and they end up being very much rejecting Israel and very much emotional in the way they are dealing with it, and it's not factual. It's not based on information, and we need to get it clear. We need to come with an intellectual struggle, understanding that now we have to put things into perspective. It started a long time ago, what happened with the Balfour Declaration, what is happening now. These are facts. When you speak about the legal, let us come to the legal issues, because they are playing with words. When they say it's not legal, they say it's just, and when it's just, it's not legal, it's illegal, what they are doing now, and we are lost in the discussion. We have to be much more intellectually powerful in the way we deal with the issue. So this is something that we should avoid just being emotional, and we have to come with facts and figures when it comes to this. And we have good examples of people who are doing this and are still doing it from where we are. The second thing that we have to avoid is to translate this into a religious conflict, as if now it's Jews versus Muslims. And you have people here in this country, they are playing this game by pushing towards Islamophobia, thinking that if we target Muslims, this is the way we are going to protect Israel. What we should say is anti-Semitism is anti-Islamic, period. Now we come to the issue. We want. For those of you who are Muslims, I have a special legal opinion. Fatwa, no clapping. If you like what I'm saying, you think about it. I don't want to be, there is enough emotion here than to have emotion there. So for you to think about it, and let us think about something which is very serious. So I might be talking emotionally, but just don't react to my emotion. Just try to think about what we have to do together. The point that I wanted to make here is, when it comes to the religious thing, we have to take a very simple position. We want equal rights for Jews, Christians, Muslims to the holy sites, and we want equal rights and equal respect. That's it. This is our intellectual, religious position, and this is what I said, for example, to the cardinal who is working with in the church, was saying, don't let some of the Zionists make something which is Jews versus Muslims. We need your voice to make it less religious problem. So the more we have religious voices, the less it's going to be a religious problem. And it's not a religious conflict, and we have to avoid translating it into this and accepting the narrative that is put by some Islamophobes in the West by trying to translate this into this type of conflict. The second thing which is also important here in our understanding is, once again, the fourth thing which is important is that we have to avoid making it a humanitarian cause. In fact, we are all gathered here because we want to support the poor Palestinians. That's not the poor Palestinians. This is oppression, and it has to do with oppression. So the people who are telling us, we gather, we get some money to support the Palestinians, and we are going to support because they are poor. No, it's not a humanitarian thing, and we will never agree to come with people who are showing solidarity for the poor people. No, it's solidarity for the oppressed. So it's a political struggle. It's not a humanitarian stance. So that's... I think that you don't get me, but that's fine. The fourth thing which is important is that to avoid making it a local conflict. What we have, for example, I was myself asked, you are a Swiss citizen, you come maybe from Egypt, this is your country of origin, it's none of your business. Israel, it's not, what's that? The conflict, it's not a local conflict. It's an international, universal conflict. It has impacts on everything. And we need to understand this at many levels. The economic reality, and by the way, many of us, we deal with this issue in too much political terms. We don't get that there is an economic reality here which is connecting some of the transnational corporations there and in our countries. So the support that we have here by some lobbies and Zionists, it's not only about political stance, it has to do with money, business. The neoliberal system that the transnational corporations that are supporting security in Israel, that they are supporting also our way of dealing with security in the country. By the way, some of the Israelis are training some of the British. So this is also the connection that we need to get. So don't fall into the trap by saying, you know what, it's a local. No, it's not local. It's a local, global conflict. It has impact on us. And more than that even, we have Islamophobes. We know this in, Daniel Papst. You know Douglas Murray. You know Melanie Phillips. We know all these people who are dealing with Islam in a way which is very bad. Islamophobes, these people are the great supporters of Israel here. So they want to make Islam a problem in order to protect what we are going to say. Meaning that the reality of us being true British, European citizens is perceived as a threat. So shed some suspicion about their presence in the country. So they are connected. All these people who are supporting the Sharia bill in the States, David Aishlem, all these people, they are connected. So we need to get this. We need to understand who is trying to do this. Why are they doing to do this? And by being clear in the way we are going to respond, we don't fall into the trap of making it Islam versus, the Zionists. It's human beings, citizens against oppression. And we open up our way of dealing with the issue in something which is a transversal, crossing the board resistance and alliance. So this is something which, once again, it's an important understanding with all this connection. And by saying also that what we heard from Livni, when we heard from Netanyahu, telling us, when we are dealing now with terrorism in your country, you're dealing with terrorism with what happened in Manchester, what happened in London, and we condemn terrorists, we condemn violent extremists. What are they saying? Is that, what you are experiencing now, it's what we had there. Who said that? Netanyahu said that just in 2001. What we heard is what you got in the States is what we are getting in Israel. As if Al-Qaeda, it's exactly like Hamas and the Palestinian resistance. By saying that they are all terrorists, that's exactly the game. And we are saying we condemn terrorism, but there is a legitimate resistance to your state terrorism. Your state terrorists. What you are doing with the civilians in Gaza or in the West Bank, the way you are treating the Palestinians. This is something which has to be said, and we know that there is a connection. This way of playing with the word terrorist is that yesterday you were a terrorist, today you are a civil, a freedom fighter, the way they did with Mandela. Now Mandela is great. By the way, remember that Mandela was courageous enough till the end to say, we are not going to be free if the Palestinians are not. This is the man. This is the man, not like some of our politicians in this country. They think that if they are Muslim or if they are to be accepted, you have just to slow down. You have to speak less about Palestine, to the point that some think that you don't have to speak about it at all. So I think that this is where we have to avoid. What do we have to do now, based on this, and in which way we have to deal with the issue? So what I was saying at the beginning, I think that once again, we should be very much involved within academia, within the intellectual setting, to come with something which is a more powerful narrative about Palestine. We need it. So we have some of the voices that we have with some of our friends and brothers in humanity and coming from Israel, Ilan Pape and others, Noam Chomsky and others, they are coming with something which is very powerful. We need to come together. We need to have these voices coming together. We need to take, Edward Said was very strong from the very beginning, and there are voices. We need to have much more academic, intellectual voices coming together. Muslims or people of other faiths, we don't anyone who is supporting justice coming and speaking out, but speaking out in an articulated way. That's the narrative, which is also something that we need to have now. Organizing things like this, once again, this is something which is important, but we should avoid talking to ourselves. So we need to think about how can we reach out people and to be informed and to inform the people around us. So we need to have, there is a media struggle here. So you have now the mainstream media straight away, when they heard about this, they started campaigning against, these people are anti-Semite, and this is what they wanted to find. We will never be anti-Semite and we will never have any anti-Semitic. We don't have any way of dealing with a hierarchy between races. We are struggling and we reject everything. But what we need here to have is to understand that within media, we need to try to find a way, and if it's not in the mainstream media, we need to be visible in the social networks, in the alternative medias. This is something which is essential, and it's very powerful. The great majority of the people are not even watching TV now. They have the phone. This is why we have to be present, and this is what we have to do. This alternative way, it's important. What also it's important is it's to take and to have, and sometimes it's not clear what we want. Sometimes the discourses and the statements that we have are not clear. We need to go to something which is the legal reality of it, is that now what Israel is doing, it's illegal and unjust. Let us start with this. Instead of starting with overall, rejection, no, let us come with, you agree on the international community relying on the legal dimension of this discussion, let us come to this. Who is doing things that are illegal, not listening to the international community? Israel is doing this. So let us start with this. So this is where we start with a powerful stance, which is we are not going to play with words. We come to the legal and we just check who is now betraying the reality of human rights, human dignities, and the reality of, and this is what is happening. All the people, it's as if the policy of the fait accompli is this, that the wall is illegal. The wall is illegal and it's there. The Palestinians are treated in an open jail and it's illegal. So we have once again to come to this, and we, as citizens, we have to take to account our own our governments by saying, how come you can support this? And I heard that many of us here, we are very critical towards the Tories. Many are supporters of the Labour. That's fine, but be clear. In history, the Labour were not always supportive. They were not. So now we have a new trend. Let us hope that this trend is going to win, to take over. But from within, we have to be critical, because some are ready to sell Palestine for political gain. We know this on both sides. So let us also be clear on this, that we have to be involved in this and to come to with a powerful discourse on now the new business of terrorism and security, because we are going to pay the price. In the name of what is happening here, what is happening there, this connection between the terrorists and what they are doing is what they are doing here. It's coming back to us. We are losing our rights. We are losing freedom, and we are under control. Even now in our universities, depending on what you say, you can be suspected of supporting. So if you support Palestinians, say, which trend? Who are you supporting? To the end by being suspected of supporting terrorists. So you go from Palestine to Syria to being stigmatized as a potential terrorist. That's very dangerous. But it's not only dangerous for the activists, it's dangerous for all of us, all the citizens. We are under danger because in the name of security, what we have now is a completely distorted image of what is happening in the Middle East and what is happening in our country. There is something that I would add to this. If you know a bit about feminism, you heard about a word which has to do with intersectionality, is when there is cumulative factors that if you are a woman, if you are a black, if you are poor in the society, it comes that you are going to be stigmatized and discriminated. That's exactly where we have to understand that we need to deal with the Palestinian issues in such a way. It has to do with the understanding that we have to understand that what is happening there, it's global. It's also connected with the way we are treated here. And the security measures, as I said, the same. The economic factors are playing the same. So we should understand the connections between the struggles. This is why I'm very happy to have the Black Lives Matter in the States having this in mind, that we are not going to free the black people in the States if we don't understand that our resistance is their resistance. It's the same. What the Palestinians are facing is what the black people are facing under this neoliberal system. So that's also something which is important in our mindset, is not to reduce, I'm with the Palestinians, period. No, I'm with the oppressed, so I need to understand the dynamics. I need to understand the logic of it. So this is why when we speak about history, it's important to have a very deep understanding of the history, because it has to do with colonialism. It has to do with racism. It has to do with exploitation. And it has to do with economic factors. All this is together. If we come and say, oh, I'm just with the Palestinians for their rights, we don't get it. We don't get it. That's not the struggle. The struggle is crossing the board. The economic side, the cultural side, the social side. And the struggles are the same. The moment you understand that it's not an Arab business, it's not a black business, it's not a Palestinian business, it's our business as human beings in the name of our equal rights and our equal humanity, this is where we are going to win. The power of the dominant is our divisions. And the weakness of our resistance is our simplistic way of dealing with the issues. So I would say that this is something that we have to do now. We have to have a very powerful narrative, understanding that it's all connected and in which way we have to deal with this. And this is why I would like, for example, when it comes to something that could come from political voices or religious voices, I would like to see, coming from the Christian side, which is already there in Palestine, but also coming from the Muslim side, liberation theology approaches towards this. Saying it's a liberation process. We're not going to let you do this because it's political, it's not religious. It's political and it's social. It also has to do with racism, because the very essence of the Zionist project is based on a very racist viewpoint. That's where we have to be. This is where we need to come together, and I would say that this is where we need to work together. Now, last point. I think that it's not for us to decide what are the means the people on the ground there have to use. I said it from the very beginning, targeting civilians will never be right for me. The resistance is legitimate, and the resistance should remain the reality there. Now, I'm asking ourselves, we are coming together, and I was told more than 6,000 people, 8,000 people at one point. To be together and to feel that we are powerful in our resistance is good, but we can't just come with talks, come with rejections and come with emotions. That's time for an intellectual struggle, a civil struggle, a global movement of non-violent resistance, and to go as far as to make it clear. BDS is our dignity. We are going to boycott. We are going to diverse. We are going to show that this is the way it should be, because what you did and the way the apartheid was supported in South Africa was unjust, unacceptable. So don't come to us now to tell us Mandela was great, forget about Netanyahu. We are not. We are going to be clear on the fact that our intellectual stance, our political struggle is also based on something which is important and what we get. We value the way we think, we value the way we eat, we value the way we buy, and we are not going to buy from oppressors. We're not going to buy from people who are dehumanizing the Palestinians to the point that they are not even considering them as human beings. If you can buy from them, it means that something is missing in your humanity. Something is missing in the way you are a human being if you accept that. So you understand that it's a comprehensive approach, and that at one point, I don't care. You are an atheist, you are an agnostic, you are a Jew, you are a Christian, you are a Muslim. If you are for justice, there is only one answer. You have to be on the side of the Palestinians, on the right side of history. And we have to be committed. It means politically to be working within the parties, at the grassroots level, with our partners. This is what we have to do in our universities. If there is anything coming from an institution, a university, preventing you from speaking out, you need to understand that it's the dignity of any university to let you organize panels, discussions, talking about it. Talk about it. Don't be shy and don't be cautious about it. And at the end of the day, I know, because before coming here, even my own university is calling me saying, you know what, we have some pressure about what you are doing. That's fine, go. But we are not going, go, that's fine. We are not going to give up. You know what, because this is the dignity. What you are trying to do to us, you are doing it to our society. If we give up, it means that we are lost as democracies and as universities even. How come? You want to put some pressure on Oxford to push me to give up, saying that what you are doing is wrong in Palestine? No, that's not going to work. So let us come together and do the job now and here as citizens in this society and in this country. Thank you.
لا